moves. So the next couple days you're going to need a sweater, might need an umbrella, and maybe down the road, if Matt Bauer has his way about it, one of these days he'll have a humanoid robot sitting right next to you that can help you put the sweater on and hold the umbrella, huh?
That'd be all right.
All right, let's go back to this thing, because for anybody joining us right now, we have been talking about robots, and Matt Bauer is a young man out of Defiance, Ohio. And he's really into humanoid robots. And let's distinguish right now, because I think maybe folks who are just joining in, and maybe we haven't defined it extremely well. I mean, if you watch The Big Bang Theory, which I do every now and then, okay, they have had robot competitions where you bring something in that cuts and smashes and bangs and, and jumps and does those kind of things. But we're really talking about, and you trying to get some high school kids and younger kids around this area involved in programs that will start to expose them to humanoid robots. So these robots really, as you said, are humans. I mean, they as close as we possibly can make them to being human beings at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. It all comes down to these are, there's motors. They move in one direction, forward and backward, and but yeah, they geometrically they take on the form of a human being, where there's 2 legs, 2 arms, a torso, and the head is not necessary, but and to make it more human-like, they do have heads. But yeah, the form of the human, I think, is it's something we can relate to. How humans move, or how we move, can translate mechanically, and I think that it opens kids up, as far as robotics goes, to a whole new level of disciplines that are involved in robotics. Robotics by themselves already takes on so many different subject matters, from physics to engineering and science and all these other formats. However, once you get involved in humanoid robotics, it includes people of other skill sets, such as dancing and martial arts, how the human moves and expresses itself, and how you can translate those expressions in code becomes really fascinating. Even something as simple to us as walking is extremely complex to do with a humanoid robot. So I mean, the challenges involved in it are really, to me, that's exciting. And not only is it exciting and neat to watch and really fun, but it's important, I think, as far as humans go, to make a machine move like we do. It opens up possibilities that otherwise wouldn't be available to us, especially in prosthetics and such.
Now, there are, at this point in time, clubs, not many of them.
Not many.
But there are clubs that are involved in this, and you have actually been part of some competitions, not only in the United States, but around the world.
Yeah, one of the largest robotics competitions in the United States, or in the world, is Robo Games, and it's held out in California annually. I went to my first competition in 2006 with a humanoid robot. I was actually one of the first in America to get my hands on one of these humanoids. At the time, they were just starting to gain popularity in Japan and such. But no, I got a hold of one, programmed it, went to Robo Games. I medaled in Kung Fu, humanoid robotic Kung Fu, which, you pin 2 humanoid robots together and they punch and kick and basically try and knock each other down. And I did really well. I went back the following year, did well again. And then from there, it just kind of opened up doors. And it was really neat to be able to see, because, after the first year, the amount of people, the crowds would just gather when you'd bring these humanoids out. Because, I mean, it's something that, we, like I said, we can relate to it, but to see a machine mimic us, it's really fascinating. And you'd see these kids in the audience with, eyes the size of saucers. And, it wasn't uncommon to see that same 15-year-old that you saw in the crowd come back next year with his own robot and ready to compete against you and just, oh, you inspired me to, and that's really cool, to have something that can inspire kids to want to learn, very advanced things, and so I took that. with me back, to Defiance, and I've always wanted to kind of start something along those lines. But back in 2006, 7, and 8, you say humanoid robots, and people are like, what? That's crazy. What are you? Some kind of weirdo genius kid. It's like no. Like people misunderstand. Like what I do with humanoid robotics. It doesn't make me any like some sort of genius. It's just I have a unique hobby is what we'll call it.
Right.
And so it's a little different. So I mean, people just automatically assume like you are something that you might not necessarily be just because you do something a little different. But I'm just trying to bring that into focus, where there is an important place in our curriculum, I believe, for humanoid robotics, and that's kind of what the point of the clubs is about. I competed in Japan it would have been late 2006, and over there culturally they embrace robotics there. It's almost a part of their culture in many aspects of their lives. They have little robotic helpers and stuff around the house. It's fairly common. Another really odd and unique thing over there is that these people that compete in these robotic competitions, it's called Robo One, and they have several others, but the big one is Robo One. The people that compete in these are almost like an American rock star. They go out into the streets and people like gather around them. They're like, and these,
Wow.
they just love these guys. Yeah, it's like, they'll demonstrate their robots in the streets. But I mean, all these people, in Japan know these guys' names, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's culturally it's different, and there's a bit of a culture shock, with stuff you have to get used to. But
these are not, and we're not talking about at Christmas time you'll give your grandkid or kid a wireless remote control car or airplane.
This is a little different.
This is actually, and that's what we talked about off mic. This is actually a programmed being. It's about how tall?
About 2 feet usually.
About 2 feet tall.
About 1 to 2 feet in height.
And now you're programming this little being to go out and compete in a soccer game against another little being about the same size.
Yeah.
Or climb stairs.
Any sort of obstacle course or challenge that, we as humans can do easily, but like I said, as a humanoid robot, they're challenging to do. And, as the years go by, the ease at which they do it starts to become easier for them.
Wow.
We start to understand how the mechanics of these robots work, and we start adding, processing power, as we talked about earlier, is growing.
Right.
And so you can fit a lot more processing power in a smaller footprint or a lot smaller chip. The robots are becoming lighter, they're becoming larger in size. The servos can handle more torque. There's servos that are the size of smaller than your cell phone that can lift 120-pound people.
Wow.
Or a quarter the size of your cell phone that can lift a small child. 80 inch-pounds of torque. That's enough to sever your finger. They're getting a lot more robust, I guess, on all areas. So with that, some of the entry-level robots, what I would consider entry-level now, was a sophisticated robot back in 2006 and 8. So now things are becoming affordable. When I was big into robots, it wasn't uncommon for the low end to compete. You would drop probably $1 to $4,000 on one of these robots.
Okay.
Some of the bigger, most popular robots in Japan, 20, 30 grand, and up from there. And granted, we have a lot of sponsorships that help us out to get, some of this stuff. It's not like we're floating the bill ourselves. But now you can get something that would cost $4,000 or more in 10 years ago, you can get for around $600-700.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's and so it really opens the exposure capabilities of our youth and stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yep.
And you said at this point in time, the goal somewhere down the line is to have potentially, and they've already put a year on it in 2050.
Optimistically put a year on it, yes.
Okay. To have these robots be physically the size of a human being and physically capable of going out and competing on a soccer field against a human soccer team.
Yes, that's one of the optimistic goals of one sect of humanoid robotics, is to these would not be controlled by human beings. They're to be autonomous, which means they have a full set of onboard sensors, their own vision systems, force feedback sensing for their joints and everything, to where they would, see a team coming out there, kind of like the self-driving cars in a sense, where you have all these variables on a soccer field, and then they react to that. And to be able to beat a professional soccer team, well, we'll see. Well, some of us. I don't know if I'll be around then, but, we'll see.
Well, I probably will not, unless you start to put some robotic parts into me to keep me alive to 2050. But who knows? That's an interesting thought right there.
Yeah.
Well, it's about 16 minutes after the hour of 11 o'clock. Let's step away for just a minute or two. We need to take care of some business. We also need to catch up with O&N News here down around the 20 mark. And then we'll close out the bottom half of the hour and let people know how they can get in touch with Matt. And if you have a child or a group of kids that might be interested in something like this, we'll give you a way to be able to get in touch with Matt, and maybe hopefully we can get some of these robotic clubs started around the area, like you're starting to get started down in Defiance. And that's exactly it. And you're in the Thunderdome here this morning until 1 o'clock this afternoon. It's 25 after 11 right now. And I'll tell you what, we have been sidetracked a couple of times, Matt. Okay?
Yes, we have.
And the boss basically came in here and said, get to the point, get to the point. It's amazing how that goes every now and then. Everybody has a boss, and so let's get to really the meat of this whole thing, because it's been a whole lot of fun. But I'm going to have to let you get out of here pretty soon. We talked a little bit about the clubs that you want to form with the area schools, and let's get down to it right now. You've had some interest down in Defiance County, but obviously we'd love to get some things going on all around Northwest Ohio right now. And I think the important thing is it always comes down to dollars and cents oftentimes. And the neat thing is the idea that you have right now really is going to be very cost effective for anybody that wants to get involved. Yeah,
pretty much we're talking no overhead from the clubs. So, as far as fundraising and such goes, that would be, they wouldn't really need to do any. The largest expense for having a humanoid robotics club would be the robot itself and the parts that make up the robot. So I've been talking with one of the companies that builds robotic kits. They're called XYZ Robot, and they also they're one of the largest manufacturers of 3D printers right now. But I've been talking with them, and they have offered their support to basically bring the cost down to where it's so manageable that I don't want to give a dollar figure, but essentially they're pretty darn close to being free.
Wow.
And then the difference of that is another company who I don't want to mention yet because it's not 100% in stone, but would basically pick up the difference of that. So if enough interest, and it's all based on enough interest being generated in these clubs. I mean, if we only have 1 or 2 people, it's probably not going to be feasible for these companies to donate such or invest so much into these robots. So I mean, interest and membership is really important at this point. Once people are involved, we get the robots in hand, and at that point, the clubs can generally take care of themselves. The members' own interest, I think, will be a driving force. Hopefully, I can get some faculty of the schools or other people that are robot enthusiasts, engineers from companies in the areas, anyone that really has a knowledge or who wants to learn more about robotics even can help drive the clubs in a forward direction. Naturally, I'd be there as a resource to help fill in gaps. But it's my intent to have the clubs manage themselves.
And initially, you probably would be more hands-on with what you're doing for the short term to get them up and get them going.
Exactly.
And then you allow the little birdies to go fly. Basically, is what you're after.
Yep. And I want to start off with 3 clubs. I started a few Facebook pages just for a means for them to gather together, or at least hit the like button on Facebook, and and if we get enough likes, then we can organize some sort of meeting or whatever where we can all meet face to face and talk about the direction of the clubs. But one of the clubs is called Defiance Ohio Robotics Club, DORC, which happens to sound like dork, which I think is very appropriate.
I love it.
We have the Ayersville Robotics Club, or ARC, and Tenora, Ohio Robotics Club, which is TORC.
Okay.
So those are my three basic ones, or the initial ones that I want to get. I mean, they're the closest to where I'm at. And I think as far as containing them goes, it will be easiest for me to get these things started. From there, I do want to branch out to the other counties. Definitely in Bryan. I know Bryan has a robotics program already.
Right.
And maybe Napoleon. But first things first. Something like this has never been done with humanoid robotics ever. I'm talking with NREF, which is the National Robotics or Education Robotics Foundation, and they basically, as far as America is concerned, kind of are a major driving force in robotics in the education system. And they're all, everywhere from New York to, Philadelphia. They're all over the place. But I've been talking with their executive director out there, and he's really interested in, what comes of this. So, I mean, if this is successful, it's going to bring, it's not only going to be beneficial to our children in the area, but I think it'll also drive, it'll bring national interest to our area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here we're in a very small, we're surrounded by corn, essentially.
Right.
We're not exposed to technologies as, say, Japan and, even New York City, and, there's major, or San Francisco and stuff, where these kids have, exposure to the latest and greatest technologies. And here's something like this in such a rural area, I think will, that's a story in itself. So, I mean, bringing exposure to our little Northwest Ohio, I think is, that'd be pretty cool,
I think it would be too.
Yeah.
And I think you do have some school administrators around the area who are very progressive, even
Yes.
though we're in this rural area.
Yeah, definitely.
You really do have some folks, but it does come down to what you hit on a little while ago. Mm-hmm. What's it going to cost?
Yeah,
And gosh, if you can bring all this into them for next to nothing.
Yeah, all of a sudden your hands aren't tied. Yeah. There's a freedom there where, we can sit here with books all day long, and which is great. Don't get me wrong. Like I self-taught myself how to program with books, but I also applied that knowledge on a computer, and at a certain point I wanted to move from the computer screen onto something and manipulate my actual physical environment. So that's where I transitioned into robotics. But yet, with each transition or with each progression, I had the tools in hand to apply that knowledge, and I think that's very important. We can theoretically program a robot or design a part, but once without the tools necessary to test those theories, we're guessing.
Right.
Right. So I mean. I think it's just a necessary thing.
All right, how do we get a hold of you? If somebody's out there listening right now, or if I need to pass this on to somebody, what's the easiest way
Definitely
to be able to get a hold of Matt Bauer?
Shoot me an email. It's BAUERMECH@gmail.com or BauerMech@gmail.com. That's probably one of the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
And obviously, if they want to, if they've been listening, they can always contact us here at the radio station, 419-636-3175, and I would be happy to get you in touch with Matt. No problem whatsoever. But that's the easiest way of doing something right now. Mm-hmm. Are there any websites that somebody that might be interested in what we've been talking about can go up and explore a little bit more, Matt? Sure.
There's the-nref. So it's THE-NREF.org, and that would be the National Robotics Education Foundation. There's robogames.net, and that's got everything from your battle bots that you see on TV all the way to humanoid robotics competitions and line following, sumo robots, you name it. It's
wow.
Yeah, robots galore. Robot Magazine. There's Yeah, I mean, really, just Google robotics and see what pops up. Because I mean, there's so many resources, and we could probably spend a lot of time listing a lot of them.
Sure,
But,
no doubt about that. But at least you do. There are people who have an appetite for this already right
Yes.
now in this area.
Yes.
And if they're not aware of them right now, that's what I was attempting to do. Now, the last thing you have to promise me, okay, right at this point in time, I'm not a young fella, okay.
Whatever. State of mind. State of mind.
I'm mentally I'm 25. Physically, I am 62. So I do have to deal with that the physics of the whole thing at this point in time. But in my lifetime right now, please promise me that I'm not going to deal with the same thing that Will Smith had to deal with in that movie a few years ago. I don't really want to have to wake up and see some humanoid robot laying over my bed wanting to take me out and do away with me at some sort of time.
I promise I won't play a part in that.
That's all I guess we can ask out of you today. How's that?
Yeah, that'll work.
Matt Bauer has been our guest today, and I really appreciate him coming by. We are going to do some more with Matt as the time goes on. If you're out there and listening today and you think it might be an interesting thing for your maybe your child, your grandchild, your school district, maybe even a club that you have going on with some younger folks, we can get you in touch with Matt. So give us a call here at the radio station, 419-636-3175. And Matt, again, the email address to get to you one more time. BAUERMECH@gmail.com. That's BauerMech. There you go. So the time has flown. It's about 25 minutes before the hour of 12 o'clock. We're going to play a little bit of music here, get into the Ag Report here in about 5 minutes. You're listening to the Thunderdome on WQCT.